DeShaun Foster's been fired. As painful as it is to fire a Bruin alum, it's the right move.
You are Locked On UCLA, your daily podcast on the UCLA Bruins. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome, everybody, to this edition of the Locked On UCLA Podcast. I'm your host, Zach Anderson-Yoxsimer, and the big news, DeShaun Foster is gone. Thanks for making this show your first listen each and every day. It's free wherever it's your podcast, and it's available on YouTube. Like, comment, subscribe, download. Welcome back, every dayers. Man, this is the day we were not wanting to have happen, but it was needed. Desperately needed with how UCLA was just looking on the field. Yes, DeShaun Foster has more wins in 15 games than Chip Kelly did. Yes, UCLA is moving into a new Big Ten arena. Yes, they are having more travel, new things, new era of money and transfer portal. But unfortunately, when UCLA decided to go after DeShaun, the thought was maybe they can strike gold and they can turn into something out of nowhere. And you have to be really, truly patient if you wanted to have that happen. But in today's era of college football, the portal means you can almost, in some cases, have overnight success. And that's where Indiana's success kind of hurts UCLA in this aspect. Where if you just commit a little bit financially, give resources, you can help out your coaching staff. And that's just not where DeShaun or the UCLA program or the UCLA administration, the athletic department is at this moment. So this firing signals UCLA shifting in the right direction. Now, there are steps to this. There are layers to this that have to go right, because what UCLA didn't do was when they went cheap and let Chip walk, they didn't have an idea of who they wanted, even though that 23 to 2024 coaching cycle, who was open, jobs that were open, very good. UCLA still could have gotten a good hire if they had made a move, and they didn't. They let Chip walk. They had a quick hiring process, went after DeShaun, who had already left the program to be with the Raiders and then came back to be the head coach. Of course, anybody would at your dream job as your alma mater. It was the job. There's nothing wrong with DeShaun taking the job, and it's painful to see him go because he was doing things that kind of put them in the right direction. But unfortunately, the lack of media savvy, which turned many people against him with closing practice, not just connecting instead of just creating a disconnect and a divide. And the UCLA fan base, it's at its lowest point it's ever been in close to 80 to 90 years since World War II, when UCLA had a record, as bad as it's been to start a year prior to 2018 with Chip Kelly. Prior to Chip Kelly's 2018 year, we've never seen a UCLA football team this bad for so long. And it's even a short stint, but it could be, in a sense, correcting a mistake made not even 2 years ago, which is horrific to say. Sometimes in college football, maybe you need a CEO and you need a coordinator, right? Like the ideal scenario could have been Chip Kelly just coaching offense and having a CEO who liked to recruit. But that's just not where we're going. Obviously, I'm not saying hire Chip Kelly, but that's what you need. You need elite coordinators if you want a CEO head coach. And that just has not worked with DeShaun Foster. He tried his best on the offensive coordinator spot. The year before he was hired, you saw Danton Lynn, or the months before, Danton Lynn left. And then you were with Akaka Malloy as the defensive coordinator, who I thought did a good job in 24. But it's frustrating. It's devastating to see that it's come to this. That after 3 games in year 2, UCLA is already thinking, wait a minute, how is this even a consideration? That has gotten this bad, that after the New Mexico game, it was, wow, we're bad after UNLV, we're bad after New Mexico. It was embarrassing versus Utah. And then it got a little more embarrassing, down 23-0 against UNLV, and then losing by 25 to New Mexico. And you're like, dude, where do they go? So to make the program go in the right direction, all right? And I have an episode with Brian Smith where it was talked about how, on this channel, where UCLA has to commit financially. And Brian was saying you have to almost double the support for the next guy. You have to give him a good deal. You have to give him good commitment. And you have to have the financial resources available, which UCLA, it's tough because are they going to give the $20 million allocated in rev share, all the football? Are they going to give it to basketball? Will they share with the Olympic sports? Will they take the tarps off the Rose Bowl and allow people to come in? What's going on that makes this a more attractive job to the next person? Obviously, the glitz and the glamour of Southern California, UCLA. They filled the Rose Bowl not too long ago, prior to the Chip Kelly age, when they were good teams against mediocre name opponents on late start times, and the Rose Bowl was still full and competitive and exciting down to the very minute, even if UCLA disappointed. It's not that long ago we were disappointed with UCLA missing the Pac-12 championship game. Now, those were very hard to swallow moments. Those were stinging moments in my UCLA fandom in recent years. All right. There's been years where just missing out on the Rose Bowl, or, oh man, how close was that Rose Bowl game, years ago? Or of course, 98. You think about all those moments, but now we're just trying to get back to that point, back to relevancy, or we don't have to come on this pod or any other coverage from UCLA. It's just mocking the place where UCLA is. And it's just the doormat of college football. UCLA, of all the basketball blue bloods, has the most potential, the most tradition, and should be the most well-respected football program of all the basketball blue bloods. All right, because UCLA, let's be honest, we lean basketball. But there's also a tradition for football, because unlike those other schools, as I just said, UCLA has not been this bad, generally speaking, outside of 1 year to start the Chip Kelly era, to start a season winless against teams that shouldn't have the same resources, that also have new coaches and new quarterback with less talent. And you're just getting eaten alive by these teams. Physically, they're moving you around, just destroying you. Simple schemes, running it right down your throat, right on you, inside zone. Quarterback running around, you can't tackle him. Repeated mistakes. And unfortunately, what was going to be good marketing by DeShaun turned into we need to win. And that turned out to be a horrific phrase to say. We're close. And then the two worst performances we've seen in a long time. Marketing is winning. I'm the right guy. And I want DeShaun to be the right guy. I truly do. We're rooting for DeShaun more than we're rooting for Chip Kelly, to be quite honest with you. But this decision had to be made. It did. Now, who could you go next? Do you want to go with the quick trajectory approach and say, hey, we took New Mexico's best player, let's take their coach too, and Jason Eck, but that's a quick rise. That's almost quicker than Kalen DeBoer's rise from Sioux Falls to Fresno State to Washington, and then he went to Alabama. At some point, you run out of success when you're jumping from place to place to place to place, because you got to be solidified at some place for a while. But Eck would be an interesting little name in terms of, oh, that's a new up-and-comer. Do you go Dan Mullen? He's probably at a spot where he'd like to leap pretty quick, but he's been out of the game for a while. Do you trust him to turn around a program just because he had some early success against some not so good teams at UNLV, right? Then do you go for a big hire? Do you go for the gruff, arrogant type of guy in Kurt Signetti, who is going to completely water down the schedule but get you wins and maybe turn you into an overnight success? Not that he's going to leave Indiana, but a guy like that, a Jim Mora, after UCLA last had an alum coach, and then you turned it around and you had a tough coach, brought the excitement, brought that toughness back, took him to San Bernardino, practiced in the 100-degree heat over and over and over again, and made the team exciting. And would win big games in Nebraska, who now ironically is their Big Ten conference football, would do those types of things. Get them to big bowl games. Put them on the national stage year in and year out. Who's that guy? Is there a big hire? Maybe there's going to be more guys, more jobs open. Florida probably stands to be one of those. Maybe Notre Dame with their 0-2 start will make a crazy change. I don't know. We'll find out. It's just UCLA has to be aggressive and they have to commit. Because if they don't commit, then nobody's going to want to commit to UCLA with the recruiting background, the media frenzy, the ability to pack the Rose Bowl is one of the most precious sights in all of college football. Now, there's great SEC tailgating. There's tradition in the Big Ten. There's some fun in the ACC. But when UCLA can pack the Rose Bowl, it is one of the most treasured sights on a Saturday afternoon when they can do it, and when they're good, and when they're relevant. And that just sprinkles success and finances all throughout the rest of the program and the rest of the athletic department. And until they decide to do that, sometimes you got to spend money to make money. And is this an overnight rebuild? Unfortunately, because they decided to go one way, they've made this a much tougher rebuild for themselves. They put more cracks in the foundation, then starting over, just instead of knocking down the whole thing, they're like, let's try to make our way into a cheap fix. And instead, they have rebuilt, and they're going to have to wipe it clean and rebuild all the way from the ground floor up. That's how it's going to be successful. It had to happen. DeShaun doesn't deserve this. But the product and the state of the UCLA athletic department with the football program demanded this. The fans have demanded this for years, since apathy has grown under Chip Kelly. And then even more so with the DeShaun Foster hire. Now, so with the lack of on-field success, the transfer portal, nobody knows the players' names, the weird media scrutiny we're all going to get because Nico's here. The added just like, we already don't like ourselves already. Why do we need more from Tennessee and Nico? We don't want to be the laughing stock of college football. But sometimes it's a little darker before the brightest days come ahead. And that's what we're looking forward to. And DeShaun, we appreciate you taking on the job. It was an impossible job. We wish you the best. Doesn't make you any worse a Bruin. You're a great Bruin. Someone had to take on this mess, and unfortunately, they dumped it on you. Were there some mistakes made? Yes, absolutely. We all make mistakes. And UCLA's biggest was not solving this 2 seasons ago and now putting them even a few seasons further behind. And the biggest thing is they need to commit the resources, commit to the right guy, and make the right moves going forward. And if they don't do that, then it doesn't matter who they hire. They could hire the best coach and nothing will change. It requires commitments to detail, commitment to resources, commitment to coach, commitment to the fan base, commitment to culture. If you don't have those things, then UCLA will still be a laughing stock when they should not be. We should not be. All right. But despite all this, the quick question I have for all you college football fans out there, if you could go back in time and sit in the front row at your school's biggest rivalry game, what hat would you be wearing? What hat? Yes, I said hat. For me, it would be the game. Because these aren't just hats. They're the same vintage styles you wore back in the 80s and the 90s when UCLA was popular, when they had the good style. And with the game caps, they got good styles, great UCLA gear, and you're still going to look good. And they have the great vintage hat for the price of $16.99 when you use the code Locked On. So bring back the good vibes, bring back the good gear, and showcase that with still wearing your UCLA gear. Locked On for $16.99. Go to thegamecaps.com. I looked at the site, looked at the UCLA stuff. I like what they have. Grab your team's classic bar or retro circle design and use the code Locked On for an exclusive discount. Because legends wear the game. Well, here we are. Get your cool gear. Keep your Bruin fandom up. Keep our chins up. As disappointing as it was to walk out of the Rose Bowl Friday night, or if you were there for Utah, or maybe you went to Vegas, or maybe you're going to any other game throughout the rest of the season. Keep your chin up high, UCLA Nation, because we'll be here to detail it all. New coach firing, the aftermath, what's going to look like in the post-current Nico saga, everything. We'll hope to entertain you at the same time. Hands up, Bruins fans. 8 clap time, baby. And 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. UCLA. UCLA, fight by fight. This has been Locked On UCLA. Zach signing off. Go Bruins.